Mike Brown, the former FEMA director.
Joining us here is the former FEMA director.
History, I think, was very unkind to you, my friend. Very unkind.
Mr. Brown, thanks for being with us.
This is Michael Brown Unplugged.
Well, happy Monday morning and welcome to this episode of Michael Brown Unplugged. Let's get started because I want to talk about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for a moment. So I have this theory, and well, I got a lot of theories, but here's the theory I want to talk about right now. If you perceive yourself as a transformational figure, if you want to continue to be a transformational figure, then you have to figure out some way to stay in the national conversation. It almost goes back to the idea that all publicity, whether it's good publicity or bad publicity, is good, because as a transformational figure, and I'm not even going to go down the path of if someone actually considers themselves to be a transformational figure, and you have that kind of self-awareness, yeah, I am a transformational figure. That's some kind of badass narcissism in my opinion. But nonetheless, there are people who consider themselves, and that is reinforced by people around them, that they are transformational figures. And if you want to stay in the national conversation as a transformational figure, then you have to keep expanding the rhetorical envelope. But if you keep expanding the envelope, sooner or later that envelope is either going to tear open and your ideas are going to spill out and be lost, or you push the envelope so far over the edge that it finally falls off the desk, and depending on where your wastebasket is, your trash can, that envelope that contains all of your transformational ideas ends up in the trash. Well, I think there is one individual right now who is currently running the risk of having her ideas spill out into the political universe, and that is AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Here's some background. AOC, Ocasio-Cortez, is better known by her initials AOC. Now, I think that's because nobody can remember her full name, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now, when you consider that she's been in the public office for a total of 194 days, having famous initials is not really such a bad benchmark. In fact, wouldn't we all want to be, hey, who are you? MDB. Cher. I mean, come on. Seriously? Rosie. When you consider those 193 days, and she has become almost I would say she's probably even more so than those running for president right now on the Democrat ticket. She is the face of the Democrat Party. I think the other reason she's known by AOC, it has a lot to do with it's just easier to type, and that gives her some sort of panache. That gives her some sort of I don't know, a little bit of notoriety. And I think the media pushes that. But let's go back to how AOC got to where she is today. She beat an incumbent, Joe Crowley, in the 2018 primary. Now, as to that specific primary, according to the New York Times, Ocasio-Cortez beat Crowley by 15 percentage points. She beat him 57.5 to 42.5. But what nobody talks about is there were only about 27,600 votes cast in that primary. So Joe Crowley's loss was numerically less crushing than it was politically crushing. Here's what you need to know about New York's 14th Congressional District, which is located in the Bronx. It is obviously overwhelmingly Democratic. If you look at the Cook Voter Index, it is plus 29 Democrat. It is a plus 29 Democrat district. It happens to be next door to what is the most Democrat district in the entire country, New York's 15th Congressional District, which again, according to Charlie Cook's index, is plus 44 Democrat. Now, in the 14th, again, that's the one where AOC beat Joe Crowley, Democrats outnumber Republicans by about 6-1, which happens to be just about the margin by which AOC beat her Republican opponent. Now, the reason I make that point is that, as Joe Biden has said, quote, she won a primary. There really was no general election to speak of. She won the primary, and that all but guaranteed her election to Congress. And that election to Congress she won in an election where there were only about 27,600 votes cast. So she's hardly what I would call, in terms of political influence, it's not like she's won a New York Senate race. It's not like she's won some vast congressional district like, I know, just pick one random. Well, Wyoming or a Montana district or Oklahoma's 6th congressional district, these vast geographical congressional districts that maybe don't have a lot of voters in them, but they cover this vast area that it really takes a lot of work to win. She won where there were only 27,600 votes cast. Now, AOC and her posse, those 3 other freshman women who have embraced the name The Squad, you see, they have nicknames. You have AOC, and then you have The Squad. They have garnered so much publicity that they actually forced House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to effectively send them to a timeout. Now, after Pelosi tagged them, which is, I would have given anything to have heard this, but there was a Democratic caucus meeting, and Pelosi came out from that Democrat caucus meeting and basically said that it was unanimous, that it was overwhelmingly approved, that it was pretty much time for them to shut up. After Pelosi tagged them in that Democratic caucus meeting, saying that airing the family laundry in public tweets is unacceptable, AOC then responded in a Washington Post interview, saying this about the speaker's hand slapping. Quote, "It got to a point where it was just outright disrespectful. The explicit singling out of newly elected women of color," close quote. So what did she do? In one fell swoop, in one single simple sentence, she played both the race card and the gender card in that one sentence. Now, this constant desire that, and it's true of everybody, trust me on this one, every single member of Congress, House and Senate, everybody wants to be in the news. It's kind of that celebrity culture that we now live in. But this constant desire to be in the news is taking a toll. And according to a recent poll conducted over the weekend, it might actually cost Democrats control of the House. And I think that's why Nancy Pelosi is so upset. Because over the weekend, Axios ran an article quoting senior House Democrats saying that, quote, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has become a definitional face for the party with a crucial group of swing voters. Now, AOC's doubt, there's no question in my mind that she will see that as continuing to advance her and her squad's socialist agenda. But here's where they don't pay attention to the details. The poll also shows that voters who are most likely to see AOC as the face of the Democrats are white, non-college voters who embraced Donald Trump in 2016 but are needed by Democrats in swing House districts. Now, according to that poll, which was taken in May before this current dust-up with Pelosi, AOC was recognized by 74% of voters, but only 22% had a favorable view. Now, along those same lines, socialism among those very same voters was viewed favorably by only 18% of the voters and unfavorably by 69%. So in addition to socialism, AOC and her squad are battling against charges of anti-Semitism, largely based on a tweet by Ilhan Omar, that Democrat from Minnesota, that House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy was under the influence of the pro-Israeli lobby AIPAC because it's all about the Benjamins, baby. That tweet was deleted. And then Omar, you probably remember all of this, Omar then had to apologize, and they passed a resolution about anti-Semitism in general, but didn't do anything in particular about Ilhan Omar. But it did leave the scent of anti-Semitism hanging over the Democratic caucus. Now, here's my point. If the Republicans were smart, they would do everything to continue to push Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and for that matter, the rest of the squad, out in front of the rest of the House Democrats. They would make the point, especially to voters in those districts that voted for Trump in 2016, but who then elected a Democrat to the House in 2018, that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the future of the Democrat Party. Now, because of understanding a narcissistic personality, having worked with a lot of them when I was in D.C., the fascinating thing about that kind of theory is this. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, if Republicans are smart and push her out in front as much as possible, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will see that as success in her continuing to expand her envelope. And the other 234 House Democrats are going to find themselves ducking for cover when it explodes. And here's how I think it begins to explode. This soundbite that you're about to hear has been viewed 2.4 million times. And it's in a hearing. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was not prepared for the hearing. She's facing former Immigrations and Customs Enforcement Director Thomas Holman. And let me just play it because I think it's fantastic.
What I'm saying, this is not the only paper where we've given the Secretary numerous options to secure the border and save lives.
And so the recommendation of the many that you recommended family separation.
I recommended zero tolerance.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
parents. If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father from his family.
Mr. Holman, with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're in the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum, you go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay. Did you notice the slight pause when he started pointing out that family separations occur all the time? All you have to go is to go to a county jail on visitation day and see either a mother or a father or a grandfather, an aunt or an uncle or, a sister or a sibling or somebody who is taking a child to visit a parent who's in a county jail or in a state penitentiary or in a federal prison. Family separation occurs all the time. She had no response, no answer. So let's go back for a moment to my point about the envelope and the envelope exploding. And when the envelope explodes and all of your true progressive objectives are laid bare for the nation, that is when the dividing line becomes clear. And I think most Americans will say, this is lawlessness, this is illogical, this is crazy, this is insane what we are allowing a small cadre, the squad, AOC and her cohorts, or for that matter, the Democrats running for the nomination on the Democrat side. It is insane what we are allowing them to do. So let me give you a little perspective. Let's go back to Chuck Schumer, the senior senator from New York, speaking at Georgetown Law School. This is probably maybe 10 years ago. This needs to be played every opportunity in every congressional district and in every Senate race to show how the envelope, and this goes back to my point about keeping AOC front and center, give her all of the oxygen she needs to stay alive. Keep the woman on life support if necessary. Don't let her go away. Chuck Schumer in the Wayback Machine.
Illegal immigration is wrong, plain and simple. Until the American people are convinced that we will stop future flows of illegal immigration, we will make no progress on dealing with the millions of illegal immigrants who are here now and on rationalizing our system of legal immigration. It's plain and simple and unavoidable. When we use phrases like undocumented workers, we convey a message to the American people that their government is not serious about combating illegal immigration, which the American people overwhelmingly oppose. If you don't think it's illegal, you're not going to say it. I think it is illegal and wrong, and we have to change it. Above all else, the American people want their government to be serious about protecting the public, enforcing the rule of law, and creating a rational system of legal immigration that will proactively fit our needs rather than reactively responding to future waves of illegal immigration. People who enter the United States without our permission are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally.
Bingo. Here's why the envelope is exploding. What Chuck Schumer said so many years ago is where I think most Americans are today. They're beginning to see the lawlessness. So yesterday we had all of these immigration raids around the country. And of course the media is apoplectic. Congressional leaders were apoplectic. The mayor of Chicago instructed the Chicago Police Department in no way to support immigrations and customs enforcement. The same is true in the city and county of Denver. Mayor Hancock came out and said that the Denver Police Department would in no way support. We even had at a detention facility, I forget where it was, where protesters tore down the American flag. That's bad enough. But once they tore down the American flag, they raised the Mexican flag. That brings me next to Congressman Ilhan Omar, because what she said is that Americans treat detained illegal aliens worse than dogs because we're racist. She said, we live in a society and govern in a body, meaning Congress, that might value the life of a dog more than they value the life of a child who might not look like theirs. Take a listen.
And instead of us saying, here is A, B, and C, we're saying there is zero option. And if you ever think that you have a chance, we're going to treat you worse than a dog. One of our members said to me, if there were dogs in those cages, every single member of Congress would vote to make sure that all of these cages didn't exist anymore. So we live in a society and govern in a body that might value the life of a dog more than they value the life of a child who might not look like theirs. And that is completely sad.
Completely sad. And completely wrong. And completely racist. Completely xenophobic. And completely it's just anti-American. They're pushing the envelope. And I don't know what it was about kind of observing and watching all of this over the weekend. But it really put into focus for me that AOC and this squad are causing a civil war within the Democrat Party. And Nancy Pelosi, as great of a, and I mean this sincerely, she is a great legislative leader. She is right up there with Sam Rayburn and some of the other greats that have led the House of Representatives. I just happen to disagree 1,000% with her policies, but I admire her ability to legislate and to accomplish what she wants to accomplish. But she's having to protect her flanks because this squad, in the middle of a presidential election season, are attacking not just their own party, but they're attacking the leader of their party right now. The leader of the Democrat Party right now is Nancy Pelosi. She is the highest ranking member of the Democrat Party. I don't care if Chuck Schumer might be the Senate Minority Leader, and I don't care who Elizabeth Warren thinks she is, or anybody else running for president. Nancy Pelosi is the leader of the Democrat Party. So she knows that envelope is about to explode or go over the edge and into the trash can, and when it does, it's going to blow up. And all of this hypocrisy and all of this insanity is going to be exposed for all Americans to see. I can't wait. So anytime that you hear anyone criticizing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Tlaib, I can't remember Ilhan Omar, and there's a fourth one, Sweeney, or whatever her name is. Those four women. Anytime you hear anyone who wants to see the re-election of Donald Trump, or want to see Republicans take back control of the House and keep control of the Senate, and they criticize, it's one thing to criticize, but don't let them convince you or anybody else to shut these women down. I want to give them a megaphone. I want to put them on the rooftop. I want them shouting from the rooftop all of this insanity. Because I think most Americans, I truly believe this, that most Americans understand that without having borders, without having a rule of law, with allowing people to just willy-nilly violate our laws, and couple that with a Congress who is unwilling, incapable, unable, whatever word you want to use, of reforming our immigration system, that's going to blow up. And I think it's going to blow up in this election season. Before I move on, I got to go right back to the same hearing that you heard Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez try to take on former ICE Director Tom Holman. Well, another congressperson tried to take on Director Holman, Jesus Garcia, who is a Democrat congressman from California. Now, the reason I like this soundbite in particular is because having been in the same shoes that former ICE Director Tom Holman is, you're sitting in front of a bunch of yahoos that, look, I respect them because they got elected, but I don't respect them when they're disrespectful to me. But what we don't have enough of from the executive branch is when someone takes an ad hominem attack against an individual, you need to push back. Well, this Democrat congressman accused former ICE Director Tom Holman of literally wanting to kill and cage migrant children because they don't look like white kids.
I'm a father. Do you have children? How can you possibly allow this to happen under your watch? Do you not care? Is it because these children don't look like children that are around you? I don't get it. Have you ever held a deceased child in your arms?
First of all, your comments are disgusting. I've served my country.
I've served my country
for 34 years.
I find your comments
this is out of
disgusting
control.
as well.
I've served my country for 34 years. And yes, I held a 5-year-old boy in my arms in the back of that tractor trailer. I knelt down beside him and said a prayer for him because I knew what his last 30 minutes of his life were like. And I had a 5-year-old son at the time. What I've been trying to do my 34 years serving my nation is to save lives. So for you to sit there and insult my integrity and my love for my country and for children, that's why this whole thing needs to be fixed. And you're the member of Congress.
We agree on that.
Fix it.
We agree on that, but I disagree.
No one in this room has seen what I've seen in my 34-year career.
Very well.
No one has experienced what I've experienced. I've saw many dead bodies coming across this border. And you want to talk about the memo? This memo is one option to stop death. Not just about enforcing the law, stop death. If you want to legalize illegal immigration, good luck with that, because it's going to get a hell of a lot worse on that border. If you say, okay, from now on, there will be no consequence, no deterrence. It's not illegal to come to this country illegally. More families will come. 31% women would be raped. More children would die. We're a nation of laws. If you don't like it, sir, change it. You're the legislator. I'm the executive branch, and I've served my country honorably for 34 years. And I will not sit here and have anybody say that I don't care about children because you're not the same color as my children.
Thank you very much.
2 points. One, we need more of that kind of reaction when these yahoos continue to accuse law enforcement, who are simply trying to enforce the law, of racism. That's the kind of pushback that every member of Congress needs to feel. But two, lost in the emotion of that exchange was probably one of the most important points that Director Holman could make. And that is if the legislative branch truly wanted to fix this, they could fix it. I know that we live in a highly partisan, polarized political environment, but you can't tell me that there isn't something, that there isn't simply one thing that they could do legislatively to fix things. Now, yes, they've given the $4 billion to build more detention facilities and to give more money to HHS to care for the children, but that will take time. They could pass laws immediately, put an emergency clause on it that says, here are the rules for asylum. You have to apply for asylum to come to this country. You have to walk into an embassy or a consulate in your own country and make application there and wait for that application to be approved or disapproved before you come to this country. One simple fix. And to Director Holman's point, that would cut down 90% of the problem. But the reality is they don't want to fix the problem. Go back to my point about the envelope. They think pushing this immigration envelope is a winning strategy for them. I think they're sorely misjudging the number of voters who are on their side. I think all Americans are compassionate for people that want to escape crime and want to escape corruption and want to escape their own S-hole country. We all feel sorry for those people. But we have a greater respect for the rule of law and we all understand that if we allow the rule of law in this country to disintegrate, that leads to anarchy. And I'll say this. I'm not pausing for effect. I'm pausing because I want to think. I'm just going to say it. I sincerely believe that the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes of the world want to see the destruction of this country. They want to see us go through some sort of absolute anarchy because they think that leads to the promised land. They think that leads to the completion of the fundamental transformation of America from a constitutional republic to a socialist, fascist, Marxist, communist, whatever it is. And you and I might as well just face up to that and recognize that's what they want. On to some economic lessons. So a company that operates a bunch of restaurants, primarily in California and in Oregon, has filed for bankruptcy. Why do you think? Due to progressive minimum wage laws.
Yeah, Restaurants Unlimited sent me a statement late this afternoon saying that they're working on a sale which could go through by this fall, and they said that they have secured funding to be able to operate until that time. Now, just before they filed for bankruptcy, though, several locations ended up closing, including Prime Rib and Chocolate Cake here earlier today. I also spoke with a couple of restaurant owners here in Portland and basically got what they think of the state of the industry.
Portland City Grill, Henry's Tavern, both run by the company Restaurants Unlimited, which filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy over the weekend for debt restructuring.
It's always a surprise and kind of a gut punch.
John Gorham owns several Portland restaurants, including Tasty and Daughters.
I think what it goes to show is the restaurant industry it's a cruel world. You know, it's where We're literally making our money off pennies.
He says the industry changes rapidly. One of his philosophies?
Don't overextend.
In court documents, Restaurants Unlimited said they unsuccessfully opened 2 new restaurants. They closed 6 just before filing. They also said the country is trending away from casual dining.
Dining has changed. It's not necessarily the long sit-down dinners anymore.
It doesn't surprise me.
Nick Zukin owns Mi Mero Mole. Speaking to me by phone, he said he made the decision to do counter service to help cut down on costs.
It's harder to get the bang for the buck from a sit-down restaurant a lot of times.
Restaurants Unlimited said minimum wage hikes are a big factor in West Coast cities like Portland. Minimum wage went up 50 cents here last week. Restaurants Unlimited says it cost them an extra $10 million, and they just can't keep up.
An extra $10 million because of progressives wanting to mandate what a private employer, a private wage earner, negotiating together what I'm willing to work for and what you're willing to pay. No, we're going to make that decision for you. Their annual wage expenses increased an aggregate of $10.6 million. And now they're in Chapter 11. That's what progressivism will do for you. But how many people understand that? Because we don't teach economics. For all of you out there watching pornography, I got some really bad news for you. Really bad news. The transmission and viewing of online videos generates 300 million tons of carbon dioxide a year, or nearly 1% of global emissions. And on-demand video services, such as Netflix, account for 1/3 of that, with online pornographic videos generating another 1/3. That means the watching of porno generates as much CO2 per year as is emitted by countries such as Belgium, Bangladesh, or Nigeria. Well, that's the conclusion of a French think tank called the Shift Project. The Shift Project. According to this news article, it's estimated that digital technologies produce 4% of greenhouse gas emissions and that this figure could soar to 8% by the year 2025. And it has estimated that CO2 emissions due to online videos alone. The report's authors used a 2018 report by Cisco and Sanveen to work out the global video internet traffic. They then estimated how much electricity was used to carry that video data and then to view it on different devices, like from phones, TVs, tablets, or whatever. Online video accounted for 60% of global data flows in 2018, or 1 zettabyte of data. That's 1,000 billion bytes. So turn off the porno right now. You're causing climate change. There's nothing left. There's nothing left. We might as well just conclude right now that every single thing that we do causes climate change. Everything, including whatever you do when you're watching porno. And speaking of the environment, I love limousine liberals. Well, a bunch of wealthy San Francisco residents have launched a crowdfunding campaign. Now, I don't get this. They want to block the construction of a new homeless shelter in their waterfront neighborhood. And so they've launched a crowdfunding campaign to block the construction. I guess they don't want to spend their own money in a lawsuit to block it. So they're going to crowdfund it. Yeah, they want you and me, I guess, to send them a couple of bucks, $20 or something, to help them fight this new homeless shelter. But they've got a new tactic. They're arguing that homeless people are bad for the environment. In a lawsuit filed against the city of San Francisco, this is reported by The Guardian, and against the California State Lands Commission, the residents have called for the project to undergo an environmental impact statement before breaking ground. The lawsuit says this project will have a significant effect on the environment due to these unusual circumstances, including by attracting additional homeless persons, open drug and alcohol use, crime, daily emergency calls, public urination and defecation, and other nuisances. I'm not sure after that list what other nuisances there are. But, golly, I hate to do this, but let's go back to illegal immigration for a minute. Let's take their argument at face value. Creating a homeless shelter in their neighborhood is going to be bad on the environment because it will attract additional homeless persons, open drug and alcohol use, crime, daily emergency calls, public urination and defecation, and other nuisances. I guess what they're saying is if you build a homeless shelter, it will attract even more homeless, exacerbating the problem and making it worse. Can't we apply that to illegal immigration? If we let people around the world know, hey, come on down. You want door number 2, door number 3, door number 1? Whatever door you want, guess what? You get free health care, you get free education, you might get some housing, you get food stamps, you get all sorts of stuff. I think the limousine liberals of San Francisco just prove themselves to be hypocrites because they're probably also for open borders, but they don't want homeless people near their homes, and they certainly don't want a homeless shelter near their homes because that will attract other homeless people. I wonder what they would think about open borders. And speaking of being bad for the environment, they call environmentalists watermelons for a good reason because they're green on the outside and communist red on the inside. Well, the malevolent brains behind Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, her chief of staff, Salkat Chakrabarti, you tell me how to pronounce this. Chakrabarti. Chakrabarti. I don't know. But he's finally confirmed what we all knew, that the Green New Deal, which is just basically a communist manifesto, is intended to impose centralized political control. It's not about controlling the environment. According to a Washington Post interview he did, the interesting thing about the Green New Deal, he says, is it wasn't originally a climate thing at all. He reportedly made the remarks to Sam Ricketts, the climate director for 2020 hopeful and Washington Governor Jay Inslee, who the Post says greeted the statement with an attentive poker face. Now, Inslee is running for POTUS on a single issue, the same global warming hoax that AOC and her chief of staff, Chakrabarti, hope to exploit to impose a socialist takeover over the United States. Chakrabarti then asked, do you guys think this is a climate thing? Because we really think of it as a how do you change the entire economy thing. Let me repeat that. Do you guys think of this as a climate thing? Because we really think of it as a how do you change the entire economy thing. You got it. Except you're not supposed to say that out loud, because doing so suggests that he's either less clever or, in my opinion, more arrogant than we thought. And I want them to be as arrogant as possible, because when you get arrogant, you start saying not stupid things, you start telling the truth. Imposing the Green New Deal is going to destroy the United States as we know it. A USSR-style government control would be established over the economy, energy, transportation, health care. Think about, when you stop and think about everything that the Democrats are advocating, they want to take over the entire economy. They want to take over the energy sector. They want to take over the transportation sector. They've essentially already taken over the education sector. They want to take over the healthcare sector. I mean, it's state control of everything. Oh, it may still be in private hands, just controlled by the government. I think that's called fascism, Marxism. Now, he didn't tell us anything that we didn't already know about what radical environmentalists are all about. Now, over at the website Climate Depot, they've got some great links. Global warming solutions, same as global cooling cures. Wait, what? Or flashback, UN climate chief Christiana Figueres seeks centralized transformation that is going to make the life of everyone on the planet very different. Or this flashback, Al Gore, U.S. climate bill will help bring about global governance. You see, it really is. I mean, we know that. It's well known that even the most radical climate proposals have zero perceptible effect on the supposedly problematic climate. Even the EPA models confirm that. But they would have plenty of effect on our freedom and our standard of living. At great expense, the United States has amassed a massive stockpile of nukes to assure that Americans would never have to live in the hell that is communism. Attempting to keep up, the Soviet Union spent itself into a collapse. but we're hardly out of the woods. The radicalized Democratic Party is far more of a threat to America than Russia ever was. They want to control everything. I've been a fan of Andrew Klavan for quite a while, and so I tend to I don't watch his videos regularly, but I would say I watch them sporadically, particularly if Christian or somebody tells me that, hey, Andrew's got he does things on the Daily Wire on YouTube, and I pretty much agree with everything Andrew says. However, I'm thinking about sending him a bill for using a copyrighted phrase.
Here for a moment and talk about this, because these are humorless times. Our friends on the left have made sure of that. It's a technique they use in order to silence the voices of patriotism and freedom. Wannabe socialist tyrants pretend to take our jokes seriously, or they take our comments out of context, or they seize on some clumsy misstatement and go on the rampage, trying to ruin our reputations or get us banned from left-sympathizing corporate news and social media outlets. Because they have no arguments in favor of their dreamed-of oppression, they want to make sure our arguments for freedom can't be heard. The idea is to make us nervous about what we say, and it works. Even my friends and those who sign my checks frequently and understandably break into a sweat when I start kidding around, because they don't want to lose sponsors and they don't want to get tarred for what I said when the outrage mob comes after me. So let me try to explain myself. I make jokes about things you're not supposed to make jokes about because you're not supposed to make jokes about them. It's my polite and gentle way of saying, bite me, leftists.
What? Bite me, leftists? Andrew. That's my phrase. I'll let this one slip because he's making a great point.
Anything I damn well please, because I'm a free American and a man. Plus, I'm a Christian. So if you annoy me, I'll put a curse on you and you'll burst into flames. That's in the Bible. I will not even go so far as to make the usual lefty-required kowtows about how much I really respect women or that my best friend is a black homosexual or whatever. Screw it. If you listen to the show, you know how my heart is about my fellow humanoids. It's not people I'm attacking. It's bad ideas. And here's the thing, my left-wing friends. Your ideas stink. Your woke identity politics is racism. Your feminism is a form of intellectual sexual abuse. Your economics is a recipe for economic and cultural disaster. And so when I, your intellectual and moral superior, slap you in the face as you deserve, you will smile and say thanks or go to hell. Either one is fine by me. Now, what message could be more inoffensive and unobjectionable than that? So, for the past 2 days, I've been talking about this grim Epstein case, and it's been very depressing. So today, I'm going to inject some comic relief into my life and yours by talking about the fact that the Democratic Party is coming apart at the seams, as it should, because it's a cesspit of socialism and tyranny. And while I'm talking about that, it may be that I start to rant about the toxic feminism that has caused a lot of second-rate, brainless dames to think they're entitled to our respect and attention simply because they have skirts on. And it's possible some women here or there among the left may find those comments objectionable. So again, let me explain. Shut up. And while you're up, could you bring me a beer?
Bite me. I've never heard it. That's the first time I've heard anybody use my trademark phrase, bite me. You're welcome, Andrew. You're welcome. I mentioned earlier that there was this detention facility where they ripped down an American flag and put up a Mexican flag. Well, our own former governor, John Hickenlooper, was on Fox News, and he was asked about it. And apparently, John Hickenlooper thinks that destroying public property, defacing public property, is somehow protected by the First Amendment.
Demonstration on Friday at the ICE facility where they pulled down the American flag and then put up, it would appear as though to be an upside-down spray-painted American flag, and then the Mexican flag over the ICE facility. It doesn't get much more progressive and radical than that. Is that something that as a moderate needs to be condemned?
Well, I certainly respect the American flag, and, you know, my whole life I've been fighting to make this country and to make sure that this country welcomes everybody and that flag represents everyone. And, you know, I'm old enough. I remember when people were burning the flag in protest of the Vietnam War. The amazing thing about this country is we're really the one place on earth, or one of the few places on earth, where that level of freedom of speech is still protected. So I might not approve of it, but I think that freedom is something that we as Americans should recognize and say, hey, that's part of our core freedom.
I appreciate walking the line, and as you point out, there is the way to say, I defend your right to do it, but I find the behavior abhorrent. Are you willing to say that doing that and ripping down the American flag over a facility and running up the Mexican flag is wrong, doesn't send the right message, is not what is going to unite us, as you say, is so important?
I think there are better ways to unite us. There's no question about that. And, you'll find all kinds of things that, and it's not a question of whether you're a progressive or moderate. I feel like, the progressive things that we've accomplished in Colorado are very, I'm an extreme moderate. They're very progressive. But I do think that we have to find, go ahead.
I can't take any more of it. I can't take any more of it. Totally misses the point. What do you think would happen to me if I walked out to the detention facility in Aurora? There's an immigration detention facility. I don't know exactly where it is in Aurora, but let's say it's 20, 25 miles from my house. I drive over. I park in the public parking lot. I walk up. I'm now on federal property. I rip down public property. That flag is part of the public property. I rip it down. I spray paint it. I rip down whatever the other flag was. I put up property that doesn't belong there, that I have no right to put up there. So I've destroyed public property. I have probably in some fashion trespassed at this point. I've committed some sort of vandalism because I've taken the American flag and I've spray painted it. If it's your own American flag and you want to spray paint it and fly it upside down, I'll defend your right to do that under the First Amendment. I will not defend your right because you have no right to trespass onto public property and destroy public property. John Hickenlooper, in his attempt to placate and be Mr. Howdy-doody, happy-go-lucky, nothing's wrong, everything in the world is fine, completely ignores the criminal activity. Oh, just like a Democrat. I know there are a lot of things in the world to worry about, and I hate to bring you one more thing to worry about, but I just want you to have a heads up. Beware.
The first pet, a popular ornamental fish, a calming presence in dentist offices. But if goldfish are discarded in the wrong way, they can grow into destructive, monsters. Parts of Lake Ontario are filled with them, so researchers have launched a unique catch and release operation in hopes of getting the upper hand. Cass Rusi shows us how.
We started tagging goldfish in 2017.
Near Hamilton, Ontario, aquatic research biologist Christine Boston and her team are on a mission.
Oh, get that guy.
A mission to rid the waters of an unwanted and unwelcomed predator, goldfish. And not the tiny orange-colored variety in aquariums.
What are they doing in the harbor? These are meant to be in a fish bowl. So why are they so big? I don't remember goldfish being that big.
I think they have the resources. They have an unlimited supply of food here in the harbor for them.
That's good for the goldfish, which are not only surviving, but thriving.
It's doing well, and our native fish aren't doing well. It competes for the habitat that our fish need to spawn and reproduce. They generate a lot of turbidity in the water, which decreases the water quality.
Quit dumping your goldfish down the toilet. You're destroying the environment. What is wrong with you people? Stop it. Let's get some taxpayer relief shots in before we go. The first one I find fascinating because it's not your typical taxpayer relief shot. A man is accused of hurling an incendiary device at a Washington State Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility and is fatally shot by the popo. CNN reports.
A man who police say was armed and was seen throwing incendiary devices was fatally shot outside a migrant detention center in Tacoma, Washington. CNN correspondent Polo Sandoval has been following this story for us. Polo, walk us through what all unfolded.
Anna, we should make it very clear so far the police have not established a motive. That is still a part of the ongoing investigation here. But police there in Tacoma, Washington were called out earlier this morning to report of a man that was basically throwing these incendiary devices around the area. They're just outside of a detention facility, an ICE detention facility. Eventually, police forced to open fire, shooting and killing the man. We're told 4 of the officers who responded were forced to shoot the man, who later died there at the scene. We also know that investigators are now basically trying to establish a motive here, exactly what led to this incident for taking place here. The only thing that this incident has in common with this expected series of raids that are to be carried out tomorrow is purely the timing here on it. There's no indication that this was specifically linked to this controversial move from President Trump to essentially potentially deport up to 2,000 people, those deportations that we could see starting as early as tomorrow. Also important to point out that Seattle, Washington is not on the list of those 9 cities that are expected to see some of this ICE-led operations tomorrow. Police officers did tell me that there was actually a peaceful rally, a peaceful demonstration that took place just a few hours before this actually took place, and there was also another pro-immigrant demonstration that was scheduled to take place there that obviously has relocated. But again, very clear, we should be very clear here, police have not established an actual motive, only saying that this individual was unfortunately and very sadly was disturbed.
Yeah, and now dead. Thank you, Polo Sandoval, for that.
Disturbed. You think so? There's master of the obvious. Throwing an incendiary device. Yeah, we think he might be disturbed. Next one comes to us from Kirkland, Washington. Kirkland Popo say an officer shot and killed a man who was threatening to harm or kill a toddler that he was holding early Saturday morning in a wooded area near Interstate 405. Officers found the man with an 18-month-old while responding to reports of a disturbance. They were able to speak with the man for about an hour in the wooded area nearby as he tightly held the child. However, the man's actions toward the toddler grew more intense, and the police department said an officer was forced to shoot the suspect to prevent immediate harm to the child. He was pronounced dead right there. And the next one, the last one, comes to us from Dalton, Georgia. A man is dead after the Popo say he was shot after allegedly trying to force his way into a motel room that he thought was too noisy Saturday morning. Dalton police say they were first called to the Motel 6 on the 2200 block of Chattanooga Road by the man who would later be shot over a noise complaint. The man told the Popo that he was staying in a first-floor room Boy, the editors, where are editors nowadays? The man told police that he was, let me just read this verbatim. The man told police that he was staying in a first-floor room at the room above his way being too loud. Do you think anybody proofread that? No. Somebody just slapped that together, and I guess there are no editors left anywhere in the world. I think what they're trying to say is the man told the cops he was staying in a first-floor room and that the room above his was being too loud. But when the officers arrived, they say they found the room's occupants asleep and no evidence of any noise. And then a slight time later, the story goes, the man called again to complain about the noise coming from a different room. That room was found to be vacant. Then, at 3:20 a.m., perfect time, right? Witnesses told the Popo the man still believed that there was a noisy room above him and decided to confront the occupants. According to the cops, the man banged on the door, threatened the cops that he was going to F them up, and tried to force his way in. It was then, the cops say, that the armed occupant of the room shot the alleged intruder multiple times. He was pronounced DRT, dead right there. Nut job. Yep, nut job. So thanks for listening to this episode of Michael Brown Unplugged. You know the drill. You can follow us using the iHeartRadio app. You can also follow us on iTunes. And if you want to follow us on social media, all you have to do is go to the website, michaelbrowntoday.com. michaelbrowntoday.com, and all the icons for Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they're all there, and you can follow us there and keep up with everything that's going on with the Michael Brown Unplugged podcast. Talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for listening.